So in this video, we're going to go over the basics of gardening and just 6 easy to follow along. First of all, I want you, before you do anything else, envision the space you're going to have to work with. Chances are, if you're doing gardening in a suburban backyard, this whole thing that is my garden is most likely your yard. So I want you to envision a space before you do anything big. It could be, literally, you could be gardening on a fire escape thing or whatever the hell those things are called. I don't live in the city. You could literally be gardening on a rooftop, or you can be gardening in a simple suburban backyard. All those work as long as you can garden there. I'm gonna be completely honest there. And growing zone's another big thing here. I'm chilling over here in 6A. You could be wherever you need to be. I know people in 7B that are literally in the same state as I am in. And then there are people in 5B just north of me. So yeah, considering that, that's what you need to consider, because you can't just plant like the most tropical plants in your garden in 6A, because that's not going to work. I think tropical is usually above like 8B usually or something like that. So yeah, unless you're in a really high growing zone, chances are you can't plant bananas in your garden. Now this is a bit more complicated. Now we're going to talk about soil, your ideal soil. Texture, you need to make sure you're talking about texture here. There's gonna be a lot of stuff under the soil, so you need to make sure you know what you're working with here. I'd recommend consulting with someone that knows their soil. They usually include silt, clay, and sand. And then the structure underneath the soil, I'm gonna list 2 usual structures that you really want to go with. The structures are granular and crummy, or really. So really, if your soil structure is either or, you should be just fine. Now time to plant your seeds. It's that time of year. Everyone's buying seeds right now, so now's your time. So you need to see what seeds are going to work. So that's what the growing zone is for. Growing zone will definitely see what seeds work. And yeah, compost is going to be a big thing that comes into this. But you also need to check the requirements for that plant, because chances are, if you're going to plant a plant in your zone and you have no idea how much water it needs, how deep in the soil you need to plant it. In others, you can't even start in pots. You need to know which ones are container friendly, because not all of them are container friendly. And plus, and if this all just sounds way too complicated, like it sounds like I'm speaking in literally any ancient language right now, you could just get transplants. Simple as that. But transplants are significantly much more money than normal plants. Now it's time to decide on raised beds or in-ground. So you can see over here, I have an in-ground. Raised beds. If you ever drive by a friend's place that has raised bed gardening, where the place where they put their plants is above the ground, that's usually more fit for like smaller gardens. Since we have a much larger garden, we do in-ground gardening, but a lot of people do those types of gardening. And yes, so we're going to talk about that. So yeah, usually you could do containers. This is just more requirements for the garden. Containers, containers. Now, here's the thing about containers. They need to be biodegradable if you want to put them in the ground. Or else you're just putting plastic in the ground, which, like, pretty unpopular. You're probably going to get a bunch of, probably going to have the whole city coming down the street at you if you put any plastic container in the ground. So that's what you want to not do. Yeah. Usually it's decided based on space if you want to do this. Since this yard is significantly larger than the average suburban backyard. I mean, I know some people that live in the suburbs with much larger backyards than this, but it all depends on the space you're working with. So if you have a space like this, where you can fit chickens, pool, a garden, and bees, you'd be good to go to do this. And always remember, the first year of gardening is going to be a lot smaller. Do you see the strawberry patch right over here? In 2020, this was my whole garden. Those blueberries over there, that was my corn patch. I'm not even joking. So now you need to understand these when you're putting them outside, because transplanting them outside, usually, in my area, it's usually around Memorial Day. But for other people, it's like the first week of June, maybe sometimes even second week of June. In others, it's like right now. So this is sunlight. You need to make sure you know what the sunlight's going to be, especially if you're planting things like sunflowers, which you can't start in pots. So you need to understand that, how much water they need, how deep you need to put them in the soil, and if they are container friendly. Those are some of the things you need to know. Now we're going to be talking about add-ons. These are the optional things, but are very useful. And we're going to start off with a weed guard, or weed protector, whatever you want to call this. See this stuff right here? This blocks at 100% of the weeds, but unfortunately, these little, whatever the hell these things are called, did not really work. We had a lot of wind this winter, unfortunately. We had a lot of bomb cyclones and nor'easters up here, and it wasn't really the most fun thing. We got like one snowstorm, and it was pretty windy up here for the whole winter, so yeah, not really the most fun thing ever. Irrigation or sprinkler system. This is an irrigation system. I have a whole video talking about that. I have 3, actually, which one is an introduction, the other is teaching more in depth about it, and the last one's actually building a mini irrigation system, which I have no clue where I put it. I misplaced it somehow. And protective plants. Now, these are where pests come in. I have like 2 pesticides. I have 2 remove pest video without pesticides, so you can check those out if you want to. I don't know. These are things like basil, which will protect tomatoes, oregano, which will protect mostly your garden from deer, and other things just like that. If you made it this far in the video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and also clicking on a video that's on the screen right now. It'll help me, it'll help support me, and get this video out to people that really want to help grow in their backyard.